Hi, this is Kimberly Chalmers with the Be Well and Be You podcast, where I talk about everything to do with your health, your well-being, and ultimately how to live your most vibrant life. And I've been thinking a lot about this concept of how we present ourselves to the world, how we show up, the things that we say, how we dress, what kinds of careers we choose, what houses we live in, what cars we drive, because I think a lot of it, we make choices based on what we think we should be doing, programming that we have, cultural expectations, and really even just our own communities can greatly impact the kinds of choices and decisions that we make. And you'll notice that I'm on a street right now. I'm dog sitting, walking the dog, and there are cars whizzing by me here. And I wanted to sit down and do a recording and do the podcast, and it is gorgeous outside. And I thought to myself, we so seldom get sunny days around here, and I'm going to go outside, walk the dog, and do the podcast and have it be perfectly imperfect. I'm not going to have perfect audio. And that gets to another point, where how much of the expectations that we place on ourselves to have things look a certain way, hear, sound a certain way. And, podcasting is one of those things. And I was talking with a friend the other day about podcasting, and she was saying, what do you use for equipment? And, I'm hesitant to get started because I don't have all the gear. I don't have everything all set up. And I'm like, I use my computer and I use Zoom to record it. And that's it. I don't have special equipment set up. I have a great microphone. I just don't use it because for me, I've come to the point in my life where I'm just not interested in attaching myself to this version of perfectionism anymore. And yes, I want to do my best and I want to show up and, be the best version of myself. But that best version of myself isn't about perfection. And I would say I'm probably a recovering perfectionist in terms of, my desire to have my house look a certain way when people show up to my house. And I've learned to let go of things like that in light of allowing life to flow, allowing myself to flow, and not being attached to things having to look a certain way. And so coming back to where we started today and looking at how much have we allowed ourselves to make choices based on what other people might think or say or expect of us, and how much are we just truly living from that place of what we desire. And for some of us, we're not even really sure, what do I desire? I'm so caught up in the things that I've been doing that I thought I was expected to do. Like maybe you chose a career because you had family that expected certain things, or you thought, well, I'm good at this, therefore I should do this. And maybe you're at a place where you're recognizing that there's more that you're here for, more than just how we look, the car we drive, etc. I was driving along the road today, in fact, and I was thinking, I've always been a bit of a snob when it comes to cars. Like, would I drive that car? Would I want to be seen in that car? I thought to myself, goodness, it's still showing up for me. Here I am almost 50. And, this idea of, how things look still is apparent. But I think for us, it's not about getting down on ourselves for having those thoughts, having those ideas, wanting to be accepted. But the place for us really is that there's an invitation for us to look at all of that, to recognize it, just to notice it, and to go, maybe there's just more. Maybe it's just not about how do I look in this car, or could I drive this car, or, other people's thoughts or ideas about the job that we've chosen or the title that we have. Maybe there's something more. Maybe it's really about how am I showing up for myself? Am I being true to who I am? Like, am I living my life from a place of passion and purpose and gratitude? Am I super grateful every morning that I wake up and I have breath? Like, am I really grateful for all my circumstances, for all of the things that I'm experiencing and living? Or am I just kind of going by default based on what I think I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm not even appreciating who I am, where I am, and what I've got? So I think it really behooves us just to be in that space of acknowledging that, some of the things that we've made as choices in our life have been based on others' expectations, have been based on a sense of maybe perfectionism or idealism around, what our life should look like. And then coming to the place of, okay, and now what? And now from here, who am I? And what am I truly desiring to live into? And when I look at my life and the fact that, I used to be super perfectionistic around what my house looks like when people show up. And I was super perfectionistic about, the content that I wanted to put out on social media. And I edited all my podcasts and took out, the ums and the ahs or whatever. And then I just got to the point where I'm like, you know what? Good enough is good enough. And I'm perfectly imperfect. And I'm really okay with this. Like, I'm really okay with just being me. And if somebody comes to my house or listens to my show and they're thinking, oy, she's lost it, or she's, disorganized or whatever, that's okay. It's really okay, because what somebody else thinks of me is far less important than how I feel about myself, than how I am living authentically as Kimberly Chalmers. And so for you too, it's looking at, are you feeling like you're living in alignment? And if so, it doesn't matter society's expectations. It doesn't matter your friends' thoughts or ideas. It doesn't matter that somebody thinks, shouldn't you have training or education, or shouldn't you have this or that or whatever? And oftentimes, we'll get that from those who are closest to us, right? Their expectations of us are often very different from our own ideas or expectations, and that's okay. For the most part, they want the best for us, but they're not living in our shoes. They're not living our life. And so it's essential that we are making choices, that we are doing things that are totally in line with our passions, with who we truly are. And many of you know that I'm about to launch my book, which has been a 12-year process. 12 years. Like, really, 12 years. At 11 years, I thought I was done. I thought, oh my gosh, it's coming out soon. And we're now at 12 years. And I could have all sorts of stories around that. I could have all sorts of stories around how it took me so long and how come I couldn't, get it done in a year or 6 months, like you hear other authors who are like, it came to me and I wrote it and got it published all within the short time, which, amazing, good for you. That hasn't been my journey. That hasn't been the process for me. And my book, it's like literally grown up with me. what it started as is not at all what it has become, much like myself. In 12 years, goodness, I've had umpteen changes in my life, radical upheavals in my life. I would never have predicted the things that were going to take place in my life. And here we are, and I feel like a new me. I feel like I'm a totally different person. And so the book is coming out at the perfect time. It's exactly on time. It's not late. It's not, behind. How much do we all think, I haven't achieved this yet. I haven't reached this destination or this mark or this success yet. And we beat ourselves up because we think we should be in a certain place. We should be farther along. And Lord knows, we see it all over social media where people, when we're on social media, we tend to show our successes and we tend to show up in our most beautiful way, and we tend to show all the good stuff. But behind closed doors, there's all sorts of stories and the journeys that go along with that. And we often don't see that. And so we make judgments based on our perception of what we're seeing versus what's actually going on. So some people are going to see my book and they're going to think, oh, wow, she created this book. Boom, boom, success. I'm expecting success because why not? And they could make all sorts of assumptions that it was easy. And, this girl just, oh my goodness, look at her. She started a new business. She has a podcast. She wrote a book, blah, blah, blah. Like people could make all sorts of assumptions like, wow, look at her. And trust me, that's not the behind the scenes story, right? I've had oodles of ups and downs, lots of, moments with myself where things have been really flippin' challenging and hard and difficult and not easy. And I've wrestled with myself and I've wrestled with the relationships that I have and the parenting, journey that I've had and the living arrangements journey that I've had. Oh my gosh, there's so many things. Deaths. On and on and on. So on the outside, it could look a certain way. And on the inside, there's reality. There's the journey. There's the fact that all of us, each one of us, has so much more to us than meets the eye, than what is presented, so to speak, to the world. So when we look at, how it is that we make our decisions and the kinds of choices that we make, and whether or not they're in line with who we are, I think it's really essential that we start to look at what is it that would bring us joy? What is it that in this day, in this moment, I feel good about doing? Instead of, I got to do this because it's what I'm supposed to do or what somebody else wants me to do. How about we just really start living our lives according to, what? This is what would bring me joy right now. This is what lights me up. And for me, with some of the things that I've let go of and some of the projects that I've taken on, it's really about tuning in to my own intuition as to what is a match. What is exactly what I desire? Or maybe not exactly, that's not even the right word. It's not about exactly what I desire because oftentimes things show up in packages that we weren't expecting. And oftentimes we have a dream of something and things don't at all come about in the way that we were expecting. And so it's being a part of that process and that journey. And I'm walking uphill, so you're gonna hear me. I live in an area where there's lots of hills, so if you hear my breath, it's just I'm taking in the fresh air, taking in the sunshine, and walking up a little hill here. And so really looking at, for each one of us, where are we showing up for the things that we truly desire to show up for, and where is it that we're missing the mark because It's something that we think we should do, or we shouldn't do that. And, I have conversations with people of all different ages, and the same thing comes up. It doesn't matter what season of life, where we are so often doing things because we think somebody else expects us to do them. And I was talking with somebody the other day and just saying, listen, you got to know you've got to be number one priority. And this doesn't come from a place of selfishness. This comes from a place of when we actually look after ourselves, tune into what it is that we're here for, what our purpose is. And when we nourish ourselves and we take care of ourselves, oh my gosh, the outpouring of that is immense. It's enormous. We have so much more capacity for other people. We have so much greater ability to give from a full cup. When we're sitting with a half cup because we're frustrated and we're disappointed and we're annoyed, because that's what happens when we're living out of alignment, oh my goodness, everybody around us pays the price for that. Everybody around us feels the energy of what we're experiencing. And so if we are lit up, if we are excited and passionate and keen and feeling like we're on track with the things that are in alignment with us, watch out, world. Watch out, because the beautiful outpouring of that is so, I want to say the word sacred, because it's precious. When we can actually show up to the world, not fussing about what other people think, what their expectations are. Wow. I used to live my life where I had this filter, and it was constantly like, what would so-and-so think? And it was very subconscious, but I began to realize over time that every time I made a choice, I was thinking to myself, what would they think about this decision? What would they think? And I would sit there and go, oh, shoot. They're going to judge me for this. They're going to maybe tell me what I'm doing is wrong. They're not going to like it. And even though I might still continue on making that choice for myself, because this was playing in the background, it's like those old-fashioned record players, which incidentally we have one and we love it. It's so fun to play records. But when there's a scratch in the record player, it begins to repeat, and it'll basically skip, and you'll hear the same thing over and over and over and over again. And it's literally like that's what was going on in my mind, was this skip, 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 skip. And I couldn't really move on with the music because I was so stuck on what this person might think. And it was one person in particular. And I look back and I think, oh my gosh, why did I allow myself to filter every single decision through that lens? Bonkers. But we're talking not a short period of time. We're talking probably a couple of decades where that was my filter. And even though I continued to pursue the things that I wanted to pursue, and even though I did it with this person telling me I shouldn't, it was still this nagging thing that kind of held me back. It held me back really from that place of true joy, that place of just really being able to experience things without this background noise. And so, I think to myself, how many of us live this way? How many of us live with this background noise, with the record player skipping, because we don't allow ourselves the full experience of just being ourselves, of just being completely in tune with who we are and what we desire. And today, if you're thinking to yourself, I don't even know. I don't even know. What do I want? Who am I? What do I desire? Where do I even begin? And I want to just let you know that my book is coming out soon, and it is called Be Outrageously You. And it is a book that is designed to literally support you in that entire place of going, who the heck am I? What am I here for? What am I showing up for? What, how am I going to make it through being able to navigate some of the nonsense that's going on in my mind? Some of that chatter, some of that, the unsupportive thinking that continues to rattle around in there while I'm trying to be my authentic self. I'm trying to let go of what other people think of me. I'm trying to, do things on my own terms without that chatter in the back. And so, I'm excited about this book because I do believe it's going to be a game changer for some of you, for many of you. And these are practices that I've outlined in the book that have been instrumental for me in terms of me letting go of all of that and being able to really move into a place of awareness when some of that stuff still shows up, because it does. Like, oh shoot, this is here again. But when that does show up, when we have different things that we know to go to in order to be able to set ourselves free from that, when we have resources and practices and ways of being able to move forward, it creates this incredible resilience, and it really lifts us to a place of like elevating us beyond the default, beyond that place where we could get stuck, and most of us do get stuck. And I was talking with somebody just yesterday about the fact that, actually it was my chiropractor, and we were talking about how, we're looking at young people who are being prescribed, medications and whatnot for all manner of different diagnoses. And when it comes down to it, in a lot of ways, if we actually look underneath the surface of things, and we get to the root of things, oh my gosh, there's just so much to be gained versus just offering a medication. I just got hooked onto some thorns here. There's so much to be gained by actually uncovering and allowing that person to see who they are, their true self, versus the stuff that they've thought they were. They're not their trauma. They're not, their life experiences are not who they are. And to be able to get underneath that, to be able to really discover who they are. And the key is to have the resources, the tools, what to do when you do feel low, what to do when things feel overwhelming, what to do when, you just can't imagine being able to get out from under the covers, for instance. And when we have different tools and practices, we can go back to those in those times, in those really challenging times. And when I was going through a divorce, which was a complete shock to me, like people say, did you know? I'm like, I had a dream one day. It was about 6 months prior. And, hindsight was like, oh, oh, okay. So my non-conscious self, my higher self, was giving me some foreshadowing, but I had no idea. And so here I was, literally overnight, the relationship's over. And I look back on that time, and I've actually just recently pulled out some of my journaling and some of my my calendar review and things like that from that year. It was 2015, and I was genuinely joyful that year. And people thought I was crazy. Like, are you okay? Are you delusional? Are you losing your mind? And honest to God, I can tell you, I'm 9 years later, and I can tell you I was genuinely joyful. But it's not because I was losing my mind. It's because I already had the tools. I knew what to do to bring myself out of that. out of the, the emotional gutter, which it was devastating. We'd been together 19 years. We had 3 children together. I mean, it rocked me to my core, absolutely. And I woke up every morning feeling like I was reliving this nightmare. But I had this sense of the possibilities. I had this sense of knowing and understanding that things can change, knowing and understanding that I could move through this. And the only reason was because I had already put into place all these practices. All the practices that are in this book are things I was already doing. I was already living it. I was already writing and journaling and being grateful and all these things. I had so many different tools in my toolkit that it's almost like one of the most challenging times of my life became one of the biggest gifts in my life, because I was able to actually experience my resilience. We don't know how resilient we are until we're actually faced with something big, right? I mean, we can imagine we are. It's like we can imagine we're really great at relationships, but until we're in a relationship, Lord knows, that's when we really face ourselves, right? That's when the truth comes out. I was just coaching someone the other day who's like, listen, I teach people how to be healthy and well and la la la, and here I'm in my relationship and my parenting, and like there's such a contrast. I'm like, yeah, because that's where we face ourselves, right? Like that's where everything shows up for us. And it's a gift. It's a total gift for us. So yes, that season of my life was extraordinarily challenging in thousands of different ways. I was a single mom. We sold the house, had to find my own place. I was doing, everything for the first time instead of shared responsibilities. It was right? I mean, it was me doing all the finances and for some of you, you're living this experience, living that reality. And so you're like, well, what's the big deal? But for me, we had married when I was 23 and essentially grown up together. And so, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we don't have shared responsibilities. Nobody else is taking the garbage out. Nobody else is doing my bookkeeping and my finances, and nobody else is doing the grocery shopping, and nobody else is doing the cooking. So, there was lots of things that all of a sudden I was doing for the first time 100% on my own. And, just facing the reality of things that had been in the relationship that I was unaware of. And so there was all of that. And yet I was joyful and grateful in the suffering. And, I don't share this with you to give myself a pat on the back or, boast or whatever, but to really let you know that it's possible to navigate through some of the biggest things in our life when we actually have the tools in the toolkit, when we know how to use the tools in the toolkit. You don't start a renovation project in your home with a hammer and nails and think that, you're going to know what to do with it, right? You got to know how to use all the tools. You got to know how to put up drywall. You got to know how to do the electrical. And it's not enough just to have all the tools sitting there. You got to know how to use them. So, yeah, it's one of those things. Some of you probably already have lots of great tools in your toolkit, and brilliant, right? The more tools that we have, the more resources we have, the more we can actually be resourceful, and we can actually be resilient, and we can get to that place of going, it just really doesn't matter what somebody else thinks. It just really doesn't matter that somebody else thinks that I should be doing this. And I'm not aligned with that, so I'm going to make a different choice. And it's for us to be able to step into our power and stand strong and be really rooted and grounded in our own personal truth of who we are, so that when it comes to making any kind of decisions, any kind of choices in our life, it's just really clear. It's really clear. We're going to do what our gut tells us. We're going to do what we already know to be true for ourselves. And we're showing up for ourselves, because when we do that, that's where the magic is, right? When we think, oh, gotta live according to what somebody else wants me to do, we get downtrodden, we get frustrated. It affects our energy. We have less to give, right? If you're a real giver and you love to give, and as soon as there's a problem, you want to sweep in there and you want to fix the problem and you want to help. And I tend to be that kind of person. As soon as I hear of a problem, I'm like, oh, okay, what resources do I know? Who do I know that could help this person? What can I do to help this person? Like, that's my default, right? And that might be your default too, which can be great. It can also be a nightmare when you forget about yourself and you forget about who you are and you forget about your priorities and you forget about your self-care, and you can lose yourself in supporting and being there for other people. So today, let's all remember that what's most important is what you desire. What's most important is for you to fill your cup. What's most important is that you discover what it is that you're here for. Who are you? Because the world needs you, uniquely you. Not you like somebody else or some cookie cutter of what somebody else wants you to be. Nobody needs that. There is nothing interesting about this world if everybody's the same. If we're all circles, who is gonna be excited or thrilled about the next invention if there are no inventions, because we're all the same, right? Nothing gets created if we're all exactly the same. We just stay complacent, stay boring. So it's awesome that you're totally unique. You are completely an individual. You are not meant to follow any specific pathway or any set of rules. You are meant to be shiny and bright and totally, radically, outrageously you. So stay tuned, because I'm going to be letting you know about the book sales, which will be coming up sooner than later. It's not going to take another 12 years. Yay! So watch out for Be Outrageously You by yours truly. And excited to have you read it. Excited to have you share your feedback of how it will support you in shaping more of your understanding of who you truly are, so that you can stand out, so that you can be amazing and be who you're already meant to be, right? Show up to your beautiful self. And if you're looking to find more of my content, you can find me on all the social media channels. Kimberly R. Chalmers on Instagram, Kimberly Chalmers on LinkedIn, and Facebook. And of course, you can find me at kimberlychalmers.com. And I'd love to hear from you. If this message has meant anything to you, if there's been anything that struck a chord, please feel free to reach out. I always treasure, oh my gosh, I so treasure when something that I have been invited to share with you lands for you. So absolutely appreciate that. And if you want to subscribe to my weekly newsletter so you can know about all the different things that are going on and the events that I have and opportunities and blah, 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 then definitely go to my Instagram page and you can click on the link and you'll find where you can subscribe. As always, be well and be you.